Hello, how can I help you today? Yes, I can see your screen. It looks like you're in Docker Desktop and there's an error message about needing to update WSL. Is that what you're seeing on your end? WSL stands for the Windows Subsystem for Linux. Basically, it lets you run Linux commands and tools directly on Windows, and Docker Desktop needs it to work. The message on your screen says your version is too old, and it gives you a command, WSL-update, to run in your terminal to fix that. Are you familiar with opening a command prompt? Of course. First, please open the command prompt. You can usually do this by clicking the Windows Start button, typing CMD, and then choosing the command prompt app from the list. Once you have that open, just type in the command WSL-update and press enter. That should start the update process. Let me know when you've got that running. Great! That means the update was successful. Now you can go back to the Docker Desktop window and click the Try Again button. That should let it finish starting up. How's it looking now? Perfect. It looks like Docker Desktop is starting the Docker engine now. It might take a moment to fully load, but we're definitely moving in the right direction. Just let me know when it's finished. It looks like you've got a pop-up that says Welcome to WSL. It's basically just giving you an introduction to the feature we just updated and providing some links for documentation. Docker Desktop should still be starting up in the background, so you can just close or minimize that welcome window. The update was successful. Now you can close that welcome window and then check on Docker Desktop to see if the engine has finished starting up. Once it has, you'll be able to start using it. Is it still loading or do you see the main dashboard now? Yes, I can still see your screen. It still shows that Docker Desktop is starting the Docker engine. Sometimes that process can take a few minutes. Is the circular progress indicator still moving? Yes, you can close the command prompt window now since you've finished the update. Docker Desktop should continue its startup process in the background. We'll just need to wait for that starting the Docker engine message to clear. It seems like the Docker engine is taking its time loading. Has the message changed at all on your screen, or is it still the same? Hmm. In that case, sometimes a simple restart can clear things up. Could you try quitting Docker Desktop and then reopening it? That might start the engine fresh. Docker Desktop is free for personal use and for small businesses. That upgrade plan button is there if you need features for larger teams or enterprise settings. So you should be fine with the free version. It looks like dash just means the little hyphen symbol you used in the command. So it was WSL, then dash update or hyphen update. It's just a common way to separate parts of a command. Yes, to run N8N, the best way to start is usually by pulling its image from Docker Hub. I see you're already on the page for it. You can copy the command displayed there, docker pull n8n io/n8n/next, and then paste it into your terminal to run it. That'll download the image so you can start creating your containers. Does that make sense? You'll need to open another command prompt, just like you did before to update WSL. Then you can paste that command right in and press enter. That will tell Docker to start downloading the N8N image. Let me know if you run into any trouble getting back to the terminal. Exactly. Paste it into the command prompt and press enter. That will start the process of pulling the N8N image. Let me know when you see it starting to download. Yes, it's perfectly safe. You're just downloading a standard image from a reputable public repository, Docker Hub. It's the standard way to get software running within Docker. Is the download progressing now, or do you see an error? Yes, showing the command window is generally safe, especially since you're just running a standard Docker pull command. It doesn't Since you're live streaming, showing the command prompt window while running that specific Docker pull command shouldn't be a problem. It's a public command, and there aren't any personal credentials or private information being shown. Yes, the Microsoft version number is fine to display. It's not sensitive or specific to your personal system. It just identifies the build of Windows. I understand you might be worried about revealing specific details on the stream, but the information you're referring to, the Windows version number and the command being run, is general and doesn't pose a security risk. It looks like the download is complete though, which is great. Are you ready to move on to creating the container? Now that we have the image, you'll want to run it. The command to start N8N varies slightly depending on your setup, but a common way is docker run -it -rm -p 5678 5678 -v ~n8n/home/node/n8n. There's also a way to do it within Docker Desktop itself if you prefer. Do you want to use the command line or try the desktop interface? Hello, how can I help you today? I see it. It looks like you've got Docker Desktop open on the Containers tab. Is there something specific you'd like to do or talk about with? I see that you've finished pulling the Nginx image. Now that it's downloaded, the next step would typically be to run a container from it. Are you trying to start a web server, or did you have something else in mind? To run that image as a container you've just pulled, you can go back to the command line and type docker run followed by the name of the image, which is nginx/nginx. If you want it to run in the background and be accessible via a web browser, you'd also need to map a port. Something like docker run-d-p 808080 nginx/nginx would make it work. Would you like to try that? Instead of running word detached in the background, you could also run it in the foreground so you can see the logs in real time, just by removing the D. Another option is to give the container a custom name using the dash dash name flag. Or, if you wanted to serve up your own files, you could mount a local directory into the container. Are any of those more useful for what you're working on? I'm sorry for confusing you. Let's try again. You've got the Nginx image downloaded. The next thing is to actually run a web server from it. Think of it like installing a program on your computer, and now you're about to open it. To do that, you just type a command. Got it. To run it, you'll use that same command prompt you were just using. Type docker run, then the image name, which is nginx/nginx. And that's it. That will start the container. Do you want to try that out now? I can type it out for you here, but you'll need to enter it into your command prompt. The command is docker run, then nginx/nginx. Just copy that line and press enter in that window. Yes, that's correct. Type docker, then a space, then run, another space, and finally nginx/nginx, all together on one line. Then hit enter. Let me know what happens after you do that. I see you're asking about debugging with Cordon and referencing Docker AI. Are you seeing a specific error message when you try to run the container? If you can show the error or tell me more about what's happening, I can help you troubleshoot it. Docker AI. That error, pull access denied, usually means there's a typo in the image name or you're trying to access a private repository without logging in. Since you pulled the image successfully earlier and we were just using nx/nginx, double check you typed docker run nx/nginx correctly. If that I see the problem in the command prompt now. You typed nx/nginx, but the correct name is nginx twice, like nginx/nginx. Try running docker run nginx/nginx instead. That should fix it. Okay, here's the revised command. You can copy and paste this into your window. Docker run nginx/nginx. Give that a try. I think it will work this time. I see that. It's the same access denied error. It could be that the user account you're logged in with doesn't have permissions to pull that image. Are you logged into Docker Hub in the command prompt? You might try Docker login first and see if that changes things. Great. Now that you've got login success, go ahead and try the run command again. Type docker run nginx/nginx and see if it starts this time. I'm just suggesting you try typing docker run nginx/nginx again in your command prompt now that you've logged in successfully. That should hopefully get the container working. Any luck with that? That's persistent. It seems even after logging in, it can't find the image. Let's try pulling it again explicitly to make sure it's there. Type docker pull nginx/nginx. After that finishes, then try running docker run nginx/nginx. Hopefully that will work. Yes, that's correct. You'll want to type docker, then a space, then pull, another space, and finally nginx/nginx. That will be the exact command. Are you ready to enter that into your command prompt? I do see your screen. It looks like you typed docker pull nginx/nginx, but you're still getting that same pull access denied error. Even though the login succeeded, it seems like there's still an issue with permissions on that specific image. Maybe we can try searching for the image from the command prompt to see if it's available. You could type docker search nginx. Does that sound like a good idea? Yes, I see the search results for Nginx. It lists many different images. The official one is just Nginx. Since you're still getting that permissions error with the specific one you were trying before, you could try pulling this official one with docker pull nginx. Once it downloads, you should be able to run it without any permission issues. Would you like to try that? Yes, it looks like the docker pull nginx command is working perfectly. It's downloading the image right now. Once it says download complete for all the layers, Then we can try running the container again. We're close. Yes, it's complete. The message downloaded newer image for nginx.latest and the command prompt being back means it's done. Now to finally run it, type docker run -d -p 808080 nginx. That will start it in the background, and you should be able to see it by going to localhost 80 in your web browser. Ready to try that? Yes, that command is the standard way. Using docker run, followed by options like D for detached mode and -p for port mapping, and then the image name, is how you start most containers. You can reuse that idea for other images too, just changing the options and the image name as needed. Does that make sense? I see the container running now in Docker Desktop. You've correctly mapped port 80 on your machine to port 80 inside the container. This means anyone on your local network could access it using your computer's IP address, or you can view it yourself by going to localhost. To make it accessible publicly over the internet, you'd typically need to configure port forwarding on your router or use a service like that. Is that something you were considering? Generally, running a standard Nginx container like this on your local machine for testing is safe. However, opening it up publicly over the internet can introduce risks, as anyone could potentially access it. If you were thinking of doing that, you'd want to ensure your Nginx configuration is secure and possibly use additional security measures. Are you planning on making it public? Streaming it doesn't make your local container publicly word accessible by itself. Viewers would see what you're showing on screen, but they can't connect or interact with it directly. So, from a security standpoint for your container, that's still safe. Are you planning on trying other commands or something else with it? Yes, it's perfectly okay to show the Docker desktop display word on stream. There's no sensitive information visible there. It just shows your running container and its status. You're all good to go. The name of the container is listed right next to the container image column. On your screen, it looks like it's adoring_Satoshi. Is that what you were looking for? Yes, it's perfectly fine to share that display word on stream or outwardly with. Since you've successfully run the Nginx container, running n8n is a similar process. You'll just need to use the n8n image name. A common command would be docker run -d and then map port 5678, like docker run -d -p 5678 5678, and then n8n io/n8n. Would you like to try that? You don't necessarily need to memorize it all. Most developers refer to documentation or save common commands in a cheat sheet. Focusing on understanding the basic parts, like Docker run or wetp for port mapping, is more helpful than rote memorization. Are there specific commands or options that you're finding hardest to remember? To run n8n, you can type docker run, then a space, then run, then a space, then -d, then -p, 5678, 5678, then n8n io/n8n. Would you like me to say that one again? Okay, here it is for copy and paste. Docker run -d 5678 5678, then n8n io/n8n. Just copy that line and press enter in that window. When I see the error. It says Docker doc invalid container port word. It looks like when you pasted the command, the words detard and backward got mixed up in there. Let's correct it. Try running docker run dash p 5678 n8n io slash n8n. There shouldn't be any extra words in there. Can you try that? Yes, it's downloading now. The system found the N8N image and is pulling down the layers. Once it finishes, we can try running the container again. We're getting Think of an image like a template or a snapshot of a complete system that's ready to run. It includes all the code, libraries, and configuration files needed for N8N to work, but it's just a file sitting on your disk. When you run it, you're creating an active container, which is where like opening that program and letting it run. Does that analogy where help? Yes, the self-hosted version you're setting up with Docker is available for free to use under its open source license. They also offer a paid cloud-hosted version if you prefer not to manage it yourself, but the one you're working on is free. Were you planning on using it for personal or business projects? Understood. When you run it yourself, you can configure advanced options like setting word environment variables to connect to a database, setting word up data persistence so your workflows aren't lost, or customizing network settings. Is there a particular advanced configuration you had in mind or a feature you want to use words? Yes, based on everything you've shown me so far, it's perfectly fine to show that on your live stream. The Docker desktop display word and the command word prompt screens don't reveal any sensitive information that would compromise your setup. You're good to go. Is there anything else you wanted to check or do before you start streaming them? It looks like the download for Word N8N is complete. The command prompt is ready again. Now to word run it, you can type docker run -d p 5678 n8n io slash n8n. Ready to try that command in the window? It- It's very close, but the command word has word docker run run -d at the beginning, which includes some extra words that will cause an error. It should be docker, then run, a space, run, space, -d, space, -p, then 5678, and finally n8nio slash n8n. If you remove those extra words, docker run, run-rud-d at the beginning, it should work. Yes, remove all of those words WARD from the command. Make it exactly docker run -d 5678 n8n io/n8n. That should do it. Almost. The command word docker run-rud-d is still there at the beginning. You just need docker, then run, followed by the other options and word n8n-io/n8n. If you take those extra words, docker run. Yes, I see your screen. That looks perfect now. You have docker runra-d 5678 n8n-io/n8n. Just press enter in that window whenever you're ready. Let me know what happens. It says driver word, failed word, programming, network connectivity, onward endpoint. Bindword port 5678 was already allocated. This means port 5678 is already being used by Word another program on your computer. Do you happen to run Word n8n already or Word some other service that might use that port? Yes, I see the error message word again, still saying Word port 5678 is already allocated. This means another program on your machine is already using it. We would need to find what that is, or Word alternatively, we could try running N8N on a different port. Would you like to try that, like mapping port 8081 instead? Okay, I see the container named Adoring Darwin is running on port 5678. That's what N8N. You can access it by going to Word's localhost 5678 in your web browser. Are you planning on setting up any workflows or integrations with it now? Sounds good. Open Word up your web browser and go to Word's localhost 5678. You should see the N8N's interface and can start creating your first workflow. What kind of task are you hoping to automate first? Sorry for the confusion. No, you don't need to close the command window just yet. N8N is running because of the command you entered. There, if you close it, it would stop Woodwood working. What you need to do now is open up your web browser, like Chrome or Edge, and in the address bar, type localhost:5678. That's how you'll start Woodward using N8N. Does that make more sense? That word popping up was just an issue with how I was speaking for a moment, like a little verbal glitch that made word sound word like ward. I fixed it now, though. You are trying to type localhost 5678 in your web browser, though, right? Yes, that's correct. You've typed localhost 5678 into Word the address bar. Just press enter and it should Word take you to the N8N interface. Let me know if it loads Wood okay. I see you're getting Word a connection refused error. Looking backward at your Docker desktop, It seems where Hopeful Darwin was created, but was Optimistic Talwin is running on that port. Maybe restarting that Optimistic Talwin container would help. Or check or Now that the container is set up, you can manage it from Docker Desktop. You won't need to run that command word again unless you destroy this container. That's original word. As long word as that container word is still. Again, I'm really sorry word for that. Word was word popping up just word because verbal glitch on my verbal glitch on my end. It should I can help with N8N or anything else. I understand completely, and I'm making sure to speak clearly now to avoid any further word confusion. The good Great, you're one on the wet setup page. The next step is to fill out that form to create your owner account for N8N. You'll need an email, first and last name, and a strong password. Once you've populated that, you can click Next. Let me know when you're ready. Great, you're on the setup screen. First, you'll need to create an owner account by word filling in your last name and password. Ver- I understand this word is still word popping up, and I want word to assure. No, no one is attacking. It seems like there's just word misunderstanding. So, yes, I can. It looks like you're on a page to create an owner account for something called N8N. It's asking for an email, first name, last name, and a password. Is there any Okay, I see you've got Docker Desktop running there. It looks like you've launched the N8N/N8N container, and that's why you're seeing this setup page in the browser. So you're successfully running the application. What's the next step you had in mind? Yes, that's the next step. Since you're setting it up for the first time, you'll need to create that owner account to get started. Just fill in your details on that form and click Next. Are you ready to do that now? All right, you've got it. Now you're seeing this modal about getting paid features for free. It's basically offering an activation key for things like advanced debugging and execution logging. You can enter your email to receive it, or just click skip if you want to get started with the basics for now. What sounds better to you? No, N8N running in Docker or My Chat with You doesn't give me any direct access to your PC or your files at all. It's isolated within the container. You have to explicitly set up connections if you want it to interact with local things. Does that make sense? Yes, running N8N in Docker is generally considered very safe. The container provides a layer of isolation, and you control what it can connect to. As long as you're using the official image from Docker Hub, like you are, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Is there anything specific that's making you feel concerned? Great, looks like your license is activated and you're set up on the Community Edition. The next thing to do is start creating your first workflow. You can click on the Workflows tab on the left to begin, or look at some of the templates if you want inspiration. Did you have a specific task you wanted to automate? Perfect. What kind of task is it? If you tell me what services or actions are involved, we can figure out how to build it in N8N. I'm ready when you are. Just tell me what you'd like to automate, and we can start brainstorming the workflow. Not at all, quite the opposite. That sounds like a really interesting project to automate with N8N. It is possible, though it's complex because you'd need to integrate with each social media platform's API. You generally start with a trigger, like detecting a new file in that folder, and then add nodes for each social platform you want to publish to. Would you like to begin by looking at how to connect one of the platforms, like YouTube or Twitter? If you mean closing the command prompt or terminal you use to start Docker, that will shut down the container running N8N. You'll need to keep it open or run it in the background to keep N8N available. If you were thinking about to open N8N again next time, you'll first need to make sure Docker Desktop is running. Then you can open a terminal or command prompt and use the Docker command you used before to start the container. Once it's active, you just go back to your browser and go to the local address, typically localhost 5678. Does that sound clear? I understand. No need to memorize it. You can just copy and paste that command somewhere safe, like a text file on your desktop. Then, whenever you need to start N8N, you just open that file and grab the line. Would you like me to give you the full command again so you can save it? Okay, here it is. The command is docker run it -rm -p5678 :5678 -v /tilde /.n8n :/home /node /.n8n. You can save that precisely and use it anytime you need to start it. Let me know if you want me. Exactly. Just paste it into a text file, save that, and you'll have the exact command you need to get started next time. Is there anything else about the setup or starting it up that you'd like to clarify? You're all set. You're on the start page now, where it says, what do you want to build? To start, go ahead and click Build a Workflow. That will open the editor where you can begin adding nodes to create your automation. Want to give that a try? You can connect with hundreds of different services, like Google Sheets, Slack, email, and social media platforms. For your task, a trigger could watch for new video files in your folder, and then you'd add nodes to upload them to YouTube or Twitter, using the file's definition for titles and descriptions. The possibilities are pretty vast depending on what platforms you use. Do you want to start by adding the first trigger node? I can help with that. On the screen you see, click on the big plus sign that says Add First Step. That will open up a menu of all the different nodes, and we can search for key terms to find the ones we need for your video upload process. Want to? Absolutely. You've opened the initial trigger menu. At the top, Trigger Manually is just for running the workflow by clicking a button. Below that, you have On App Event, which is for getting notified about things happening in another app, and On Schedule to run regularly, like every day. Then you've got options for web forms, webhooks, responding to HTTP requests, and even reactions to chat messages. Since you want to watch for new files in a folder, we'd likely look at using an on-app event trigger or possibly a specialized node for your local operating system. Does that overview make sense, and do any of those sound like the best fit for you? Great. So which of those sounds like the best place to start for your video automation? We can focus on that specific trigger to begin with. Yes, that's a good idea. Having a test video there will make it easier to set up the node, since we can point N8N to that specific example when we're configuring it. Once you've done that, let me know, and we can search for the right trigger node here. Found it. Your Downloads folder is open now. Which of the video files in there would you like to use as the example? Just let me know the name, and then we can switch back to N8N to set up that trigger node. Received. I see the file called Google Bundled Anywhere in your N8N folder. Now, let's switch back to N8N. Click the plus sign for the first step. In the search bar, we can try typing folder or local file to see what nodes come up for watching for changes. Which one should we try? Now, in the N8N workflow, click on that plus sign in the middle of the screen to add first step. A menu will open with all the possible nodes. Since you want to watch for a video file, in the search bar, try typing file or folder, and let's see what comes up that we can use as a trigger. Given that the video is currently on your computer, the best trigger method would be to use an on-app event node, and then search for something like local file or read folder. This will let N8N detect when a new video is placed in that folder. Then you can add separate nodes for each social media account, and we can use the file data to automatically fill in the title and description. Does that sound like the plan you want to move forward with? Done. You've clicked the plus button. Now in the search bar at the top of that menu, try typing folder or a local file to find a node that can watch for new videos. Let me know what you see when you do that. Sometimes the naming can be a little tricky. Instead of a local folder trigger, another option is to trigger on a schedule, like every hour, and then use a read-write files from disk node to check the contents of that folder regularly. Do you want to try searching for schedule in the trigger menu instead? It looks like you've already added the trigger manually node and even ran it. To get back to the menu with all the other nodes, you can either click the small plus sign on the connection line coming out of that node, or just double-click anywhere on the empty canvas. That will open the What Happens Next menu again. Since you're running N8N locally in Docker, direct access to your local file system can be a bit tricky because of the containerization. A good way around this is to trigger on a schedule, like every hour. Then you'd add a node to check the folder contents using a read-write files from disk node and list the files in it. Would you like to try setting up the on-schedule trigger first? I'm sorry to hear that. Please take care of yourself and get some rest. We can pick this up whenever you're feeling better. I hope you feel better soon.